I was surprised to see you'd made an appointment. Oh, would you like some sugar with your tea? Very well. It's nice to finally meet you. I'm Aquila.
Ginny, thanks for taking the time to see me.
Of course. What would you like to talk about?
I'd like to talk about Harry. Shocking, I know.
I suspected. I'm happy to help how I can, but I won't be able to discuss anything he's told me in his sessions.
I know, that's fine. It's not like that, it's just, I need some advice.
With what?
It seems you were actually getting through to him before he decided to quit. Now I can't figure how to convince him to come back.
Has his mood worsened?
Actually, he's been rather chipper. But it sort of seems like he's doing it to prove a point. I can tell it's not going to last.
What point's that?
That he doesn't actually need therapy, which he obviously does because he's basically been using my mum as a therapist.
What does that mean?
Well, the two of them have become very close ever since the jumper incident. Am I allowed to assume you know about that one? Of course you do. Harry never would have figured that one out on his own.
So he and Molly have been closer lately?
Much. But since he stopped coming here, it's become unhealthy. He talks to her almost every day.
What makes you think it's unhealthy?
Harry's never been especially open, but now he's unloading his problems on her. Bit unfair to her, really. She always wants to help, but it's got to be exhausting.
Has Molly told you that?
No, I'm assuming. As great of a listener as she is, she's not a professional. That's why I think it would be better for both of them if he came back to see you.
And has he been opening up to you as well?
He has a couple of times, but I'm not the best at that sort of thing.
What do you mean?
Just like, compared to my mum, she's like the ultimate mother. Everyone goes to her for advice.
And yet, you came to me for advice.
Well, if I went to her, she'd think I was jealous.
Jealous of what?
That Harry vents to her and not to me.
Are you?
Jealous? No.
All right. Have you spoken to Harry about any of this?
I've asked him if he's planning to come back to see you. You know, trying to put the idea in his head. Because Harry's not always super receptive to outright suggestions.
How does he respond?
He says that he's never been better.
Ah. And how have you been?
Me? Very pregnant.
So I've noticed. And how has that been?
Oh, besides the hot flushes and the extra 10 stone I'm carrying in front of me?
Besides that?
Besides that, it's been fine. Have you ever had one?
Yes, one boy.
How old?
11 next month.
Almost Hogwarts age.
Indeed. So aside from the physical discomfort, how's your pregnancy been?
Well, maternity leave sucks.
How long have you been off?
Almost since the beginning. I play Quidditch and it's not exactly safe to fly when you're pregnant.
Has that been tough, not playing?
It's been torture. I've been trying to keep myself busy, convinced my friend at the Prophet to let me write a few pieces for the sports section, so that's been fun. And taking a couple classes to prepare for the baby. Just for fun, I even took a class that taught moving paintings. Wasn't for me.
You've been bored.
To put it lightly. Most days I just sit at home by myself.
Have you been spending any time with friends?
Everyone's at work during the day.
What about people in your classes?
I talk to them sometimes, but They're mostly women, and I can only speculate on Victor Crumb's love life for so long. Not that there's anything wrong with that. I know I bore them when I pivot the conversation to his use of the Ronsky feint.
Do you have many female friends?
Yeah, I do. I've always gotten on better with guys, but I'm close with Hermione, if Harry's mentioned her, and all my teammates are women too.
Have you been keeping up with them?
Not as much as I'd like. I did have lunch with Valmay the other week. She saw her at the Chaser.
And how was that?
It was okay. We got a new coach last month, which was a long time coming, so we mostly talked about that.
How did that make you feel?
A bit weird. There's been a lot of re-strategizing going on, so I wish I could be part of that.
You're feeling excluded.
And I guess sort of irrelevant. The whole team figures out the strategies together, so now they're making all these big decisions without me. When I go back, I'm going to have to learn everything from scratch, not to mention prove myself to a new coach who's going to be used to my stand-in. Do you know what I mean?
Yes, I do. When I had my son, I had to refer my clients to a colleague of mine, and I worried that they wouldn't come back. But they did. I'm sure there's a reason that you're the chaser and she's the stand-in.
At least I was back when my ankles fit over my boots. No? At least I was back when my boots fit up over my ankles.
Well, that part will bounce back too. Did anything else happen at lunch?
Not really. Well, there was this one moment. Just a small thing, but at one point we hadn't seen our waiter in ages, and Val made joke that he was pulling a Wilder, then looked at me like I was supposed to laugh.
Pulling a Wilder?
Do you remember in the 90s when that Quidditch player Wilder Griffiths went missing during a match?
Vaguely.
The game broke out into a riot and she just disappeared. It was a whole thing.
Oh yes, I think I do remember. Oh, pulling a Wilder.
Right. Well, it happened years ago and we barely talk about it, but I guess the team's been making that joke a lot lately. Like, if someone's running late, she's pulling a Wilder.
I see.
I guess Val may forgot that those jokes didn't really start till after I left, so then she had to explain it to me, and it was awkward. I don't know, it doesn't really matter. It was just weird.
I can imagine. Are you close to your family?
Oh, yeah. Some of them by choice. There's Ron. Well, you should know I have 6 brothers.
Oh.
So there's Ron. He's Harry's best mate, so he's always around, and I'm probably closest with my brother George. My brother Fred, George's twin, died during the war. So after that, we just got a lot closer. We have the same sense of humour.
I'm very sorry to hear that. That must have been difficult.
More so for him. They were inseparable. But he's doing a lot better with it now. Anyway, Percy I could take or leave, and the other 2 weren't really around much when I was growing up. Then I'm close with my parents, though we argue a lot more lately. I'm close with them. Not that my mom's been paying very much attention to me recently, but...
But what?
But nothing. That was the end of the thought.
Do you actually see your mum less because of Harry?
I really do. They talk like several times a week. It's not a problem or anything, it's just... Well, it's a bit irritating, knowing their conversations seem to have less friction than ours.
Less friction than yours and Harry's, or yours and your mother's?
Mine and my mom's. Although, different types of friction, I guess.
What's the source of the friction with your mum?
Same as any mother-daughter. She's just always on my case.
Sure. What does she criticise you about?
You know, she does a thing where she's like, "Your hands are so pretty. I wish you didn't ruin them by biting your nails, or your hair is your best feature. I wish you didn't always pull it back like that. Because I wear my hair in a ponytail a lot.
Classic mum.
Or a big one these days is about going back to work. She knows that I would like to go back pretty much as soon as I can, but she thinks that a new mother should stay with the children for at least a year. She doesn't really get that the longer you take off Quidditch, the harder it is to go back.
That makes sense.
We've agreed to disagree, but that hasn't stopped her from dropping all kinds of little comments about the precious moments that she had with us during our first few years.
How do you feel when she says things like that?
Well, I wish she'd stop. Everyone knows she's an amazing mother, and I'm glad I'll have her there to help, but we're different people. And to be honest, I think it's quite old-fashioned.
You've mentioned a couple of times about her having the reputation of being the ultimate mother, as you put it.
Yeah, our friends have always pretty much treated the Burrow like a second home.
The Burrow?
That's what we call our house. I think it's meant to be a joke, like, because there's so many children, like rabbits.
So your friends like her a lot.
Yeah, she's always serving tea and biscuits and giving out life advice, that sort of thing.
That sounds very nice. But what's she like as an actual mother?
She's great, honestly. I mean, she had 7 kids and no money, and, well, it turned out pretty much all right. Plus, she basically adopted Harry. I won't get into it, but if he hasn't mentioned the Dursleys to you yet, then you've got a lot of work ahead of you.
Then why do I get the sense that something's wrong?
Nothing's wrong. It's just... it's annoying, knowing that that's what I have to compete with.
Is that what it feels like? You're competing?
I mean, it's always been a lot of pressure being the only other girl in the family. And now that the baby's coming, there's even more expectations.
Do any of your brothers have children?
Bill has a couple, and Percy's got one. But it's different for them. They're expected to act like boys.
And you don't feel like you're living up to her expectations?
I guess I've just never been quite as feminine as she is. How could I be, growing up with 6 older brothers? And that's why we don't always see eye to eye. But just because she seems more like a mother, that doesn't mean she's always right, right?
Are you asking my permission to feel that way?
I do feel that way.
Why do you think she seems more like a mother?
That's what I'm saying. She's just a lot warmer than I am.
You said she was more feminine. Do you think that's the same thing as being warm?
Oh, they're related, obviously.
I'm not sure I agree. You don't think the men in your life show you warmth?
That's not what I'm saying. It's just... women obviously talk about their feelings more than men do. I imagine that's why Harry's been talking to my mum so much recently. Because I'm not as much like that.
I see.
But this isn't just about me feeling sorry for myself. I'm worried about him. He's clearly unhappy.
Why do you say that?
Because he's been acting way too happy. This isn't the first time he's tried to spellotape over a deeper problem.
Could you elaborate on that?
Well, we actually broke up for a while a few years back.
Okay.
It was right after you know who. Harry was in sort of a weird place. He was thrilled that he was dead, obviously, but I don't think he quite knew what to do with himself.
What did he do?
He partied, mostly. Making up for lost time, as he put it. Mind you, he had started aura training and he was playing Quidditch recreationally, but most nights he'd find some people to go out with, even if he didn't know them very well.
Did you join him?
Occasionally. But I was still in school. These were mostly recent graduates. And it was strange, because Harry was never the most social person. That's why I felt like there was I don't know, something else going on.
Something else?
Not like that. He never cheated on me or anything. Although I did get the sense he found that very noble of himself.
To not cheat?
Precisely. Like that was some great sacrifice.
Boys.
To be fair, I'd been with a couple people before him, but I was his first, more or less. And, you know, we were 18.
But the two of you did break up.
Yes. And that was part of it. In the partying, I understood. You didn't really get a chance to be a regular teenager like the rest of us until you know who was gone. But after that, it seemed like he didn't want to be responsible for anything anymore, including me.
Who broke up with whom?
I did. We weren't doing each other any favors trying to stick it out. He was always acting so positive, but there were clearly some other things he needed to sort out on his own.
How long were you broken up for?
About a year and a half. Although we did hook up a couple times. It was impossible to stop seeing each other given my family.
Yes, I can imagine. And how did you get back together?
Well, first, Harry and Ron were at a party one night, and Ron lost track of Harry. Then when he found him, he was alone in a bedroom, crying. When he noticed that Ron was there, he just snapped out of it, acted like nothing was going on. Sort of freaked Ron out.
How did Ron react?
He came to me for advice.
Because you were Harry's ex-girlfriend.
Well, he went to Hermione first, but he didn't love her advice, so he came to me expecting something different. Ron's an idiot, though. Obviously, we both just had to talk to him.
Naturally.
To his credit, he did. And it actually seemed to help Harry a lot.
How did that conversation go?
I don't know, he wouldn't tell me. But after that, Harry started taking his training more seriously. And Hermione got him involved in some activist stuff, sort of gave him back a sense of purpose, and then he apologized to me and we got back together.
I'd like to circle back round to Ron. Is he very feminine?
Ron? No, not at all.
Well, I only ask because from what you've told me, it seems like Ron was able to talk to Harry in a way that made him comfortable opening up. Is he an especially warm person?
No, I actually can't think of anyone less sensitive.
You mentioned before that Harry came to you on a couple of occasions before deciding that Molly was a better listener, right?
Sure.
How did those conversations play out?
Well, the last time it was as we were getting ready for bed, and I asked Harry how work was, just making conversation. But to my surprise, instead of his usual fine, he actually started telling me how work was. Caught me a little off guard. Harry just been thrown off this big case. They're trying to find this crime boss. He got kicked off and he kept trying to get more information out of his team members, but no one would tell him anything. Eventually, he tricked some trainee into giving him an update.
What happened?
With the case?
I wasn't sure if it was relevant.
It's not really. I think they found the guy's compound and it was like deserted except for a rubbish bin with some old potions bottles and pineapple candy. Point was, Harry felt really left out.
And how did you react?
I told him that's bollocks, but he'd get over it and he had plenty of other cases.
Was he receptive?
He actually seemed kind of frustrated. But what else was I supposed to say? It's not like I could give him the case back.
Did you ever tell him about getting lunch with your teammate?
Yeah, I mentioned it.
Did you explain how it made you feel?
No, it never came up.
Do you think that might have been a good opportunity? When he was telling you about feeling left out at work?
I mean, I didn't want to make it all about me.
That's very considerate of you. But sometimes when someone opens up to us, what they're really looking for is to know they're not alone.
Maybe that would help. To be honest, that's not really the easiest kind of thing for me. Growing up with 6 older brothers, they jump at any sign of weakness. No one really paid any attention to me until I started acting confident.
So you've always been closed off?
When I was younger, I was deathly shy. But eventually I realized if you act like you're confident, people start to believe that you are. I guess I just got used to it.
You know, showing vulnerability doesn't have to mean that you're not confident.
No, I know. I don't like talking about this, but I think it also has to do with this thing that happened to me when I was 11.
Whatever you're comfortable sharing.
My first year at Hogwarts was rough. I didn't have many friends, but I found this diary that would write back to me when I wrote in it. It felt like I was talking to this really sweet boy. I didn't know who it was, but I thought he really liked me. So I wrote down all my secrets and all my feelings, and it turns out I was talking to you-know-who.
Oh. Merlin's beard.
I know. So, that kind of betrayal, I guess it sort of stays with you.
Yes. I'd be surprised if it didn't. I know it's difficult, but the only way to move past that is with practice. I think of vulnerability as a way to connect with other people.
What do you mean?
Being honest with your feelings and understanding those of others are two sides of the same galleon. You can't be close to someone unless you trust them.
That's something I need to work on.
A lot of us do.
Yeah. Maybe Harry doesn't need to come back.
Oh, I'm sorry, I'm not supposed to talk about his sessions. Suffice to say, that's not what I was trying to tell you.
Well, I'm glad it's not just me then.
Oh, our time's run long. It's a shame we didn't get to that diary story earlier.
Maybe next time. Yeah. Harry said you could.
Ah, yes.
By the way, we're all on your side about the double potions thing. Except for Harry and Ron.
Is that so? Funny, he didn't mention.
Hi, Draco.
Is there a family discount?